Next station is Queen's Park. Queen's Park Station.
Hey everyone, it is Thursday, March 4th. The time is 1:23 p.m. and the temperature outside is -4 degrees Celsius. I'm on the southbound University side of Line 1 of the city's subway network. And we're about to roll into Queen's Park Station. And from there, I'll head up to street level and take a casual stroll up
Arriving
through
at Queen's Park.
Queen's Park.
Queen's Park Station. Doors will open on the left. Line 1, towards Finn. Please stay clear of the doors.
So this station is in downtown Toronto and it opened back in 1963. And that train will be heading down to St. Patrick's Station. And while you may know that Ottawa is the capital city of Canada, Toronto is the capital of Ontario. And Queen's Park is home to the provincial legislative building, and that's essentially the equivalent of a US state capitol. So I'll be taking a walk alongside that building. There's a number of statues and memorials. A large park and some other interesting sights to see. So let's head on up to College Street. And there is College. And there's the intersection of Queen's Park and College. Although south of College, it is University Avenue. And the northern part of University Avenue features an area known as Hospital Row. And this is where Queen's Park begins. And I'll be walking north through the property. And that's a look up at the legislative building itself. So it kind of turns into a crescent just up ahead there. And the part on the right is known as Queen's Park Crescent East. And on the left, where traffic heads south, would be Queen's Park Crescent West. And since we're here, this would be a Firefighters Memorial. So this is one of several memorials around Queen's Park. And I think this was put in back in 2005. And I think this statue is known as the Unknown Firefighter. And these are the names of firefighters who lost their lives serving the province. And just to the north of here is a memorial for police. And I think there's 9 different statues in total on the property. And it looks like the most well-known one is covered up right now. And I think that's where the statue of Sir John A. Macdonald is supposed to be. I'll just wait for a break in traffic here. I guess it's undergoing some type of restoration. And he was the first Prime Minister of Canada. But I think he was actually born in Scotland. Sorry if this isn't the best look here. But we might as well get a perfectly centered shot of a rather symmetrical legislative building. So this land was originally part of the University of Toronto. And it was leased to the City of Toronto and then later turned over to the province of Ontario for a whopping $1 a year for 99 years. And I'll be heading up the east side as I think it's a bit more interesting than walking up the west side of Queen's Park. So this structure itself was completed back in 1893. And just 6 years later, Old City Hall was built down at Queen and Bay. As far as buildings go, I think Old City Hall is the nicer of the two buildings. And there's a statue of George Brown. And of course the Canadian flag. And this part of Queen's Park is often home to a number of gatherings and protests and other events of that sort of nature. And I think that guy there is part of the special security team that works here at Queen's Park. It used to be policed by the province, but they changed that up with their own security team. And I think they all have status as constables. There's an old cannon. Sorry, this won't be the most informative historical or political tour. I really just kind of wanted to go for a casual stroll around the property. There's John Sandfield Macdonald. He was Prime Minister of Ontario from 1867 to 1871. So that would be one of the 9 statues here. And I think John A. Macdonald was born in 1815. So that was before Canada was even a country. So I'm heading over to the east side of the property. And maybe we'll cross the street and take a look at the memorial for the police. And then I'll walk by one of my favorite buildings in the entire city, and that's the Whitney Block. And there's a statue for Lieutenant Colonel John Graves Simcoe. So Queen's Park is flanked by the University of Toronto on the east, west, and north sides of the property, which makes sense given that this was originally university land. And these here are provincial government offices. I'll talk a bit more about this beautiful Art Deco building in the background when I get in front of it. I actually know a few things about that. This is the Ontario Police Memorial. So this, according to this plaque here, opened in 2000, so that was 5 years before the Firefighters Memorial. Just like we have 3 levels of government in the province, or in Canada, there's the federal government, which works out of Ottawa, and the provincial government, which is right here in Ontario, or Toronto rather, and the local municipal governments. There's also 3 levels of police, pretty much. There's the RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They're the federal level of police. There's the OPP, which is the Ontario Provincial Police. And then there's the Metro Toronto Police, or Peel Region Police, or York Region Police, whatever the local police force is for the local municipalities. There's a view of the eastern side of the Legislative Building. The current party in power are the Conservatives. They were sworn in back in 2018. And they are not too popular in the city of Toronto. And this building here is known as the Whitney Block. That's a group of provincial government offices inside. And this was built, or rather it was completed in 1926. I'm looking for a plaque here. I've sworn I have seen one before. And I think this style would be modern Gothic Art Deco. And what's interesting is within this complex here is one of the only remaining still operating hand crank elevators in the province of Ontario. And at one point there's even a bowling alley in this facility. I'll just stay nice and wide of these people here. So this here is Wellesley Street West, which starts just on the western side of Queen's Park, and this will run east all the way across downtown, and it'll terminate in Cabbagetown. So the official address of the Whitney block is actually 99 Wellesley Street. I think it currently houses a few different ministries, including natural resources and forestry, and government and consumer services. I'm trying to think of the other one, but it's slipping my mind. But there is a tunnel that runs underneath that building to Queen's Park. And I think Doug Ford, who is the premier of the province, and his cabinet ministers actually work out of the Whitney block and not Queen's Park, although someone can probably clarify that in the comments. So this is the north side of the building, and if I'm not mistaken, everything to the south of Wellesley Street here is maintained by the province of Ontario, and everything to the north, which is labeled as Queen's Park itself, is handled by the Toronto Parks Department. And well off into the distance there, you can see some of the rather nice buildings of the St. George campus at the University of Toronto. So this park is a rather popular place to hang out in the summer. And the province itself, I think, is slated to make a pretty big announcement regarding the fate of the next few weeks for the city of Toronto tomorrow. So probably by the time you're watching this, it has already been announced. But technically, we're still under a stay-at-home order, even though the region just to the north of here is actually 2 stages better than that. So I think there's a lot of hope that we'll be moving into what they call the red zone, but the city itself is only recommending the gray zone, which I personally don't agree with. Neither do most business owners in the city, but we'll have to wait and see until tomorrow. So this area has been fenced off for tree regeneration. And I think coming up here is a statue of King Edward VII. This would be the centerpiece of this part of the park. So I am heading north right now. So Queen's Park begins at College to the south, and it ends at Bloor Street to the north. And then just north of Bloor Street, it becomes Avenue Road. And that'll, after getting briefly interrupted by Upper Canada College, we'll head all the way to just north of Highway 401. Here's the statue of King Edward. So this was put in back on May 24th, 1969. Maybe I'll wander over towards the west side of Queen's Park now. There's another memorial at the north end of the park. I just felt kind of like doing something a little different today. I wanted to go out for a bike ride, but it was a bit on the windy and cold side. So I kind of decided to do this walk at the last second. So in terms of distance covered, it's certainly a bit shorter than I normally do. And there's a look at one of the most beautiful buildings in the city, at least in my opinion, Trinity College at the University of Toronto. And there's Wycliffe College and the CN Tower directly to the south. And there's where Wellesley Street begins. So this whole area to the left here is part of the University of Toronto campus. Here's another tree regeneration rest area. And just up ahead is where Queen's Park Crescent ends. And then I'll just continue on north past a couple of museums and make my way up to Bloor, and maybe I'll just head into St George subway station while I'm up there anyways. There's the Jackman Law Building at the U of T. And I'm embarrassed to say I'm not exactly sure what this memorial is for. You'd think I would know. I'm sure at some point. I did know, but Looks like landing in Sicily, Hitler Line. This could be a memorial to the different war efforts of Canadian troops. There's Vimy. We're well known for the Battle of Vimy Ridge. And I saw Afghanistan written on the other side of the statue, so it's probably some type of tribute to the war efforts. And there's a look straight up north towards Bloor Street and Avenue Road. I'm just going to go ahead and cross here. And I think just to the east here is Victoria College, which is part of the University of Toronto. And here's the Faculty of Music right next to the Faculty of Law. And coming up on the left will be the old planetarium. First, here's the entrance to Museum Subway Station. And there's the planetarium. That opened back in 1968, and I remember going there on a school trip in the early 90s. And it was shuttered for good by the province of Ontario due to funding concerns, I think in 1995. And the University of Toronto has taken over the property and they plan to redevelop it. So it looks like there'll be a 9-story structure here. And I have really fond memories of this place. I remember going there with my family as well. The Royal Ontario Museum here had a King Tut exhibition on. And I think we spent the day coming here, looking through that exhibit, and then we went to the planetarium. That's a neat experience. Today's kids, I think, are surely deprived of. And here's the ROM itself. And this was completed back in 1912. And the Michael Lee Chin Crystal Edition, which you can't really see that well from here, came in 2007. And right across the street is the Gardner Museum. And that's a ceramics museum that opened in 1984. And for a period was operated by the Royal Ontario Museum, but is now back under independent operation. This old building here is part of the University of Toronto, but it is also home to a flagship Club Monaco store. Club Monaco was a Canadian retailer, but I seem to recall at some point Tommy Hilfiger bought them. So just to the right here is the Yorkville neighborhood. That's an area known as the Mink Mile. Here's a look south down Queen's Park.
Like, that's the best when you could be happy.
And there's Church of the Redeemer with an interesting message on display. The Canadian government recently voted to declare that there was a genocide in China. And I think that's a growing sentiment. It'll be interesting to see what becomes of that. I think federal leadership is trying to distance themselves from that declaration. I wanted to walk on the other side of the street, but it is closed due to the construction job at this hotel here. So this is Avenue Road I'm walking north on. So this is what Queen's Park turns into, north of Bloor. That would be into the Yorkville Village area. I think it would be nicer to head over to St. George along Prince Arthur Avenue. It's kind of a nice street, although it's going to be a bit challenging to navigate to. I really didn't think this video was going to be any longer than 15 or 20 minutes. Looks like I really guesstimated that one incorrectly. I really just thought I'd go for a walk through Queen's Park, and that would be that. So this is Yorkville Avenue. So here's Prince Arthur Avenue. And that is the fabulous Morton Steakhouse. It's not the best steak in the city. I'm quite partial to barbarians. Not that I can eat out at these places more than once a year or so. I also like Harbor 60, but Morton's is definitely up there. So I'll just be walking west until I get to Bedford Road. There's some gorgeous old homes on the south side of Prince Arthur here. I'd been meaning to do a video through this neighborhood. Just haven't yet got around to it. These more residential walks are a bit better suited to any season but the winter. And here's a distinctly 60s style apartment block. And given the location, I would be willing to bet this would be a very expensive apartment to rent. They have 1-bedrooms, studios, and 2-bedrooms right now at hollyburn.com. That guy took an unusual interest in my camera. I was actually going to cross the street there, but And he just paced back in the other direction. Oh. Hopefully my camera wasn't pointing up for too long there. Occasionally this gets stuck pointing upwards. Oh, there he goes. Oh, that reminds me of when I used to be a teacher, having to corral kids. Here's the Duke of York Pub and Brouhaha. I've been down here a few times to the craft beer lounge, but I have not been to the Duke of York, although they do share a washroom facility. Oh, here goes our favorite guy again. He probably thinks I'm following him. Maybe I'll cross over to the other side of Bedford here. And I will put my mask back on. It's a bit windy. Hopefully it doesn't fly out of my hand here as I try to loop it around my ears. And there's the building where Mayor John Tory lives, who is also not a very popular figure these days in the city. Okay, I think I'm all ready to go, so let's go and jump on the eastbound Line 2 train. So this walk started on the subway and it shall end on the subway, hopefully. That wasn't a train I needed. Nope, that was a northbound Line 1 train. This looks like an eastbound Line 2 train. So I hope you enjoyed this walk through Queen's Park and then up to St George Station. Let me know your thoughts and comments below. If you wish to support the channel, you can check out my Patreon. There is a link to that in the description, along with my Instagram, and you can check out channel memberships on the main page. All right, thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you on the next one.